The world is full of skillful people who never got their shot. And the uncomfortable question is, why? Because it's not always about effort. It's not always about intelligence. Some of the most skilled, most hard-working people you'll ever meet are stuck, overlooked, invisible, while someone else, sometimes less qualified, is closing deals, raising funding, and getting opportunities they didn't even apply for. This is not about luck. This is not about talent. This is about something most people completely overlook, and it explains why certain people seem to attract opportunity, while others, just as capable, just as hardworking, keep waiting for their turn. The question is simple. Why do opportunities keep finding certain people? At first glance, the answer seems obvious. Work hard, get skilled, and opportunities will come. But reality doesn't always work that way.
Have you ever noticed that when a big job opens up, it rarely goes to the most qualified person who applied? It goes to someone who knew someone. Or when a startup raises funding, the founder rarely found their investor through a pitch competition. They were introduced by a mutual contact. Or when a business gets its first big client, it almost never came from a cold email. It came from a referral. This pattern repeats so consistently across industries, across countries, across centuries, that at some point you have to stop calling it coincidence and start asking what is actually happening here. Because it's not that these people got lucky, it's that they exist inside a system that most people don't even know is running. That system has a name. Economists call it social capital. And once you understand it, you'll never look at success the same way again.
Let me tell you about two people. We'll call them James and Daniel. Same city, same software engineering boot camp, graduated the same month. James was the better coder, genuinely. His projects were cleaner, his logic sharper, his output faster. He went home after class, kept building, kept learning. He was determined to let his work speak for itself. Daniel was good, not great. He knew it. But Daniel had a different habit. Every time the boot camp hosted an event, he showed up. When guest speakers came in, Daniel asked one thoughtful question. Not to impress, he was genuinely curious. He'd follow up with a short message afterward. I really liked what you said about X. It changed how I'm thinking about Y. He joined online communities in his field, not to promote himself, to genuinely contribute, answer questions, share resources, engage with people's work. 6 months later, both are job hunting. James applied to 200 companies. He had a strong portfolio. He got 4 interviews, no offers. Daniel applied to 40 companies, but one of those guest speakers he messaged, a founder, remembered him, not as a great coder, as a thoughtful, engaged person. That founder made one introduction. Daniel got in the room. 3 years later, Daniel is a lead engineer at a Series B startup, earning 3 times James's salary and getting approached by companies, not the other way around. James was more skilled. Daniel was more visible, and in the market for opportunity, visibility often wins. But here's what this story is not saying. It is not saying Daniel won because he was social. It is not saying James lost because he focused on skill. James lost because he believed skill alone was enough to be found. And in a noisy world, that belief is expensive.
Yes, completely. And this needs to be said clearly. Skill is not optional. Skill is not secondary. Skill is the entire foundation. If you have weak skills, poor execution, and a product that doesn't deliver, no amount of connections will save you. You might get one opportunity through a relationship, but if you don't deliver, that door closes forever. And in networks, word travels fast in both directions. So let's be completely honest. A bad product with a great network is just a faster path to a public failure. And here's the other side of that truth. If you build something genuinely extraordinary, something so good, so undeniable, so clearly valuable, the network becomes less of a requirement and more of an accelerator. Great products do find their way. Great skills do get discovered.
History has proven this. But, and this is the part that should make you think,
How long does that take alone? Because while you're waiting to be discovered, someone with a similar product and one strong relationship is already in the room, already getting the check, already getting the distribution. Not because their product is better, but because someone trusted vouched for it. This is not about replacing skill with relationships. This is about understanding what skill alone cannot do for you. Skill creates the value. Relationships create the opportunity to show that value. You need both working together. Think of it like a brilliant book written in a language nobody speaks. The content is extraordinary. The craft is real. But if no one can access it, who does it serve? Your skill is the book. Your network is the translation. Build the book first. Build it well. Build it so it's worth sharing. Then make sure the right people can read it.
Here's the simplest way to think about social capital. Imagine your regular bank account. You deposit money, you build a balance. When you need it, you withdraw. Social capital works the same way. Every time you help someone, every time you show up, every time you deliver on a promise, every time you introduce two people who needed to meet, you're making a deposit. Every time you ask for a favor, request an introduction, or need support, you're making a withdrawal. The people with the highest social capital are not the most aggressive networkers. They're the most generous ones. They give before they ask. They help without keeping score. They make everyone around them slightly more successful. And in return, the world quietly starts routing opportunities in their direction. This is not a metaphor. This is how deals get made. This is how funding gets raised. This is how careers get built. The invisible economy of trust and relationships runs underneath every visible economy of money and business, and most people are completely unaware it exists.
In 1959, a lawyer named Charlie Munger was introduced to Warren Buffett over dinner in Omaha, arranged by a mutual contact, a prominent local doctor. They'd both been independently successful, but separately they had limits. Buffett was brilliant at finding undervalued companies. Munger thought differently. He understood the qualitative side of businesses, brands, moats, human psychology. The introduction came through a mutual contact at a dinner party. Neither was looking for a partner that night. But within that single conversation, Buffett later said he realized Munger saw things he couldn't see. They formed a partnership, and that partnership, Berkshire Hathaway, became one of the greatest wealth-building machines in human history. Think about that. Two of the most successful investors of all time, both already successful alone. One introduction, one dinner, changed the trajectory of both their lives and created hundreds of billions of dollars of value. One connection, one evening, one introduction that came through trust. Not a pitch deck, not a cold email, a trusted mutual contact who said, "These two need to meet." And here is what makes this story important. Buffett and Munger were not average. They were both already exceptional. The relationship didn't replace their skill, it multiplied it. That is the real lesson. Of course you can. Some of the greatest businesses started in garages with no connections, no investors, no famous mentors. But let's be honest about what usually happens next. The garage company gets its first break through a connection. Jeff Bezos left his Wall Street job after a conversation with his boss, who gave him unconventional advice and the emotional space to take a risk. Steve Jobs met Steve Wozniak through a mutual friend in a computer club. Sara Blakely, founder of Spanx, got her breakthrough when a friend introduced her to a buyer at Neiman Marcus who actually listened. You can build alone. Many people do. But at some point, almost every story of extraordinary success has a moment, a conversation, an introduction, a person who believed in them and told someone else. The question is not, can I succeed without connections? The question is, how much harder am I making it for myself by ignoring them?
This one matters because most networking advice is written by extroverts for extroverts. Go to events, work the room, shake every hand. If that's not you, good news. The most powerful networks are not built in crowded rooms. They're built in quiet, consistent, one-on-one conversations. Introverts have a natural advantage that most extroverts lack. They listen. And listening, genuinely listening, remembering what someone said, following up with something specific, is the single most underrated relationship-building skill that exists. The extrovert collects 100 business cards in one evening. The introvert has one deep conversation, and that person remembers them for years. Depth beats width every time. You don't need to network loudly. You need to show up consistently in the right places and care genuinely about the people you meet. That is a skill introverts are often better at than anyone else. Here's the truth about starting from zero. You don't need access to powerful people to begin. You need access to your level and then grow from there. Step 1. Go where the work is being discussed. Online communities, niche forums, industry groups, local meetups. Not to promote yourself, to contribute genuinely, answer questions, share what you know, engage with people's ideas. Consistency here builds something most people underestimate: familiarity. And familiarity is the first form of trust. Step 2. Make one real connection a week, not 100. One thoughtful conversation, one genuine follow-up, one person whose work you engaged with sincerely. 52 people a year who actually know you is worth 10,000 followers who don't. Step 3. Become the connector. The fastest way to build social capital is not to ask for introductions, it's to make them. When you introduce two people who needed to meet, both of them remember you. Both of them trust you more. And when they hear of an opportunity that fits you, you are the first name that comes to mind. Step 4. Deliver, always. Every promise you keep is a deposit. Every commitment you break is a withdrawal. Reputation is just the average of every promise you ever made. Build it slowly, protect it completely. Here's what nobody tells you about how opportunities actually travel. They don't move through job boards. They don't move through cold applications. They move through conversations. Someone mentions a problem they have. Someone else says, "I know exactly the right person for that." That recommendation travels to you. And in that moment, your skills, your reputation, your reliability, your character, all of it gets compressed into one sentence, spoken by someone who trusts you. That is how most real opportunities actually move. Not posted online, not advertised, whispered from one trusted person to another. The people who receive these whispers are not always the most talented. They are the most known, trusted, and remembered. And that is a choice, not a personality trait, not a privilege, not something you're born with. It's something you build deliberately over time.
So why do opportunities keep finding certain people? Because opportunities are not random. They travel through the networks of people who trust each other. They flow toward people who have built real reputation, not just real skill. They find people who made themselves visible in the right rooms, who gave before they asked, who delivered when it mattered, who treated every relationship as something worth protecting. This is not a story about replacing hard work with socializing. This is not a lesson telling you to network instead of building. The message is simpler and more important than that. Build your skills so deeply that you become impossible to ignore. Then build your relationships so genuinely that the right people become impossible to stay quiet about you.
One without the other is incomplete. Skill without visibility is a locked room full of value nobody can access. Visibility without skill is a loud promise that quietly destroys your reputation. But skill with visibility, execution with trust,
a great product with one person who believes in it enough to make the call. That is how extraordinary things happen. Build something worth talking about, then make sure the right people are talking about it. Because opportunities don't just find the most skilled people. They find the people who are known, trusted, and remembered.